Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our fourth big movie podcast. I'm Anson Chan,
I'm Paul Morgan.
and today we are reviewing The Master and Crimson Peaks.
Yeah, shall we start with Crimson Peak?
Oh, sure. Paul, do you want to start us off on the synopsis?
Yeah. So, Crimson Peak is a 2015 movie directed by Guillermo del Toro, starring Mia Wasikowska, I'm not sure if that's correct, Jessica Chastain, Tom Hiddleston, Charlie Hunnam, and Jim Beaver. The basic plot is that in Buffalo, New York, 1887, Edith Cushing, who is played by Mia, the daughter of a wealthy American businessman, is visited by her mother's ghost, essentially, who warns her, beware of Crimson Peak. And 14 years later, she meets an author, and stuff kind of goes from there. The author's played by Tom Hiddleston. She starts seeing ghosts.
Wait, Tom Hiddleston's an author?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I just missed that.
Oh, no, sorry. Edith is the author. My bad.
Oh, okay, yeah, because
I
he's an
maybe
inventor.
missed that. Yeah, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, why is he in that big science thing if he's an author? So red ghosts start to appear in the mansion after Tom Hiddleston, or after someone else gets murdered. Tom Hiddleston takes her to, like, a local post office where, she learns he has some connection to an Italian woman. They're snowed in for a night, and weird stuff just goes down for the rest of the movie. Is that a reasonable enough synopsis?
Yeah, I'd say it's just a spooky haunted house story.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of like weird stuff is happening. The movie was received relatively well. It made $31 million in North America, $46.3 million worldwide, for a total of $74 million. It got relatively positive reviews as a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 66 on Metacritic. So, yeah.
Yeah, I recall this getting some pretty good reviews from the critics, at least.
Which I think is part of the reason why we wanted to watch it. And
Yeah.
let's talk about how we felt about it.
Paul, I would love to hear your reaction to Crimson Peaks, because I know you're fresh off of watching it. What did you think?
Well, I want to preface this by saying I'm a huge Guillermo del Toro fan.
Yeah, man.
Which makes the way that I feel about this even weirder to me. I had a lot of trouble enjoying this. I did not feel positively about it in almost any way. That's very unusual for me. I recently loved Pacific Rim, Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, Hellboy
Pacific
2.
Rim?
Yeah, he directed Pacific Rim. I love Blade 2. I love Hellboy. I love Hellboy 2. I love Guillermo del Toro, and this movie, it just did not connect with me. So as far as what worked for me, as usual, the cinematography was gorgeous. That shot in the beginning when the little girl's peering down the hallway and her mother's shadow starts to creep across the wall, the coloration in that is gorgeous, and the shadows being cast across the wall and the floor are amazing. I thought the waltz scene was shot incredibly well. That was gorgeous.
I agree.
When she's in the bath playing with the dog and she starts, getting kind of the feeling something is out there and she gets out and stuff, that slow push, I thought, like, the little things like that are so great. Everything where it was like we use the camera to create the sense of foreboding, I thought was really wonderful. But then that's about all that I have to say positively, unfortunately, because as I move on into what didn't work for me, the acting just did not connect with me. I felt like the acting felt very try-hardy, and that this is coming from someone who loves Jessica Chastain and Tom Hiddleston. So here is what I guess I have to say about the acting. The acting, when people talk about acting, they say one of the biggest parts of acting is you want to do as little as possible because the appearance of trying to act is the exact opposite of acting.
Mm-hmm.
In this, most of the characters to me felt like they were trying to act.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with
And
that.
I could feel that kind of seeping through every scene, and it didn't quite. It just made it harder for things to connect with me. Like, there were a lot of scenes that I think could have been really good had it not been for the kind of the over the top acting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I guess overall, most things didn't really work for me. As per usual with Guillermo del Toro, the creature design is cool. The cinematography is great. The coloration is fantastic. And the settings are always very ornate and very gorgeous. But something about the acting, I just couldn't connect with it. So.
No, I'm 100% with you.
Yeah, tell me about your thoughts.
Oh, so I got into Crimson Peaks with high hopes and expectations. A Guillermo del Toro movie. This will be fun.
Yeah.
Because he makes really cool spooky monsters. I know him most from Pan's Labyrinth, and loved the creature design in that. Superb.
Yeah.
I also love the pacing and just the story it told in Pan's. And I was like, okay, Crimson Peak could be a really cool ghost story. I've never seen Tom Hiddleston in anything outside of, Thor. So this could be kind of fun, Before I just go into my overall thoughts, I'll say what I liked about it.
Yeah.
Same with you. Some of those shots were gorgeous. The moving shots in the waltz, felt really good. You could feel every cut, though, when they had to change the angle. Because your eyes are kind of, drawn to the candle flame. And, it does look like they cut when it does go out, and then they have another angle. But when they are just moving around the room, between people and through things, and they, you don't get a sense that there are rails or anything. It just feels so organic. That was an excellently shot scene. I was really getting the sense that, in this movie, they're trying to go for, a very Hitchcocky feel. You already know something's bad. They start off the picture telling you, beware of Crimson Peaks,
Yeah.
So you already know something's fucked up. It's just, in Hitchcock movies, what's already bad before the characters do, so you're just kind of watching it unfold in front of you, right?
Yeah, the Hitchcock movies have this delicate balance between what the audience knows and what the characters know, and it's always kind of teetering on the edge of that.
Yeah, in this one, I felt like they were trying to go for that feel, especially from the storytelling perspective.
Yeah.
Even just the whole setup, I feel like this could have just been a remake of a Hitchcock movie. But
Sure.
The acting, the dialogue, moving from piece to piece, plot point to plot point, just felt so bad. Oh, before I get into things I didn't like. At first, I really liked the color, but then I thought it was very off-putting. For instance, I really liked the bathroom, the lighting in there. It's all golden. He's a rich guy.
Yeah.
It felt really nice. So that was really cool. I'm sure there's emotional coloring that I'm not fully grasping, of course. Maybe, I wasn't trying to look too hard into it. Because at a certain point, when the acting is so bad, the story is just so clunky, and it just feels all wrong. Not in a good way where the movie's making you feel that way, just because it just doesn't feel well put together.
Yeah.
The colors and the weird oozing stuff around just distract more than they help. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah. I understand that.
But the colors initially I quite liked until you see it all fall apart in the mansion. I feel the more they focus on the sister, spoiler, the more they focus on the sister, Tom Hiddleston's sister, that's when it just all goes downhill.
Yeah.
She is just the worst actor ever. I have no idea what she's from, but if this is the one movie I've ever seen her in, I hope she never works again.
Are you thinking of Jessica Chastain? Do you want to look at the IMDb page to confirm that's what you're thinking of?
Let me check. Well, they were both really horrible.
And I don't think the thing is I don't think it's a product of them being bad actors, because Jessica Chastain is amazing in a lot of stuff, but I just think that
she was so bad in this.
Something about the style of speech coupled with the kind of unnatural sounding dialogue. It just made for a cocktail that I think no actor would want to swallow.
It didn't even feel right for the period because
I don't think it probably was.
Yeah,
It felt to me like Sweeney Todd almost, in like, oh, they're just kind of really heightening everything in order to give it a sense of style or something like that, you know?
I felt like they were trying at a certain point. That's why I kind of say it's kind of Hitchcocky too, because it kind of feels like play actors in a play. You're watching it unfold, like, they're more of that style of acting versus like they settle into their character, their role. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that style of acting is kind of outdated in a sense. Like for the same reason when you watch like a Humphrey Bogart movie and you hear a lot of that like transatlantic North American accent or whatever, and you're just like, nobody talks like this.
But that's a lot of charm to it.
That does. This seemed to lose the charm. It
didn't have any charm. It didn't have any of it. Because I don't think they even gave up trying. I don't think they ever really tried. And then they kept going with, they wanted it to sound that way. But the writing did not lend itself to it. And the actors could definitely not pull it off. I mean, for Tom Hiddleston's credit, I think he did a really good job. He's probably the best actor in there. But
yeah, he's a great actor for sure.
He could not help how bad the girls were, and he could not help the dialogue, because for the shit lines that he was given, like the really weird, like there was one scene in like when he's up in the attic playing with his toys or inventing stuff, you know.
Yeah.
For some reason, like the dialogue just felt really, really dumb. It felt like, oh, I'm telling you about how abused I was, you know, and then like. You could tell it was just really poorly put together, but
it was a little bit too on the nose, I think.
Oh, absolutely. But he still did a pretty good job delivering it, because any other actor would have definitely fallen short because of how badly put together that scene is.
Yeah, and I think this movie broke the rule of don't say exactly what you mean just a little bit too much.
Oh my god, for real. That was all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell... I think The Simpsons...
I mean, I even think that, like, Beware of Crimson Peak was a little bit of, like, a bad line to get started on, you know? Because it's like, the Beware the blank is such a kind of movie... I mean, not to shit on Guillermo del Toro. I mean, I love him to death. But the concept of Beware the blank is such a movie cliche at this point that, like, comedies have started to do that as, like, a joke, because it's like... Only a comedy could pull off this because it's such a kind of movie cliche. Like Emperor's New Groove, when that old guy gets thrown out of the palace and he goes, "Beware the groove!" It's like, that's okay because the groove is this totally abstract, silly concept, and he's an old man who's like, you know, warning people. But like in this, it was just like, really? We're going to start with this?
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds so harsh and, you know, but it just did not, that didn't connect with me at all.
No, I agree. And I also like the point that you said, like, the acting style or maybe what they were going for is out the window. Because I can see this working maybe in the 50s with a different direction.
Yeah.
My biggest problem now, because if you try to think of this as like a Hitchcock movie or something like that, there's pretty snappy. There's not a lot of scenes that are unnecessary. Or, you know, they don't focus a lot on what you don't need to know. The camera's moving. The scenes are, you know, from one room to the other kind of thing. In this, there was just so much filler because they just want to show the colors and symbolism and whatever oozing walls or what have you, that it brought the pace to just like a weird screeching halt that would kind of like pick up its like 10-pound snowshoe and slog one step forward every like 10 minutes, you know what I mean? And stop for a while, back, stop. It felt so bad. Whereas, actually, I think the camera focus, which is probably, you know, I guess best attribute how beautifully it was shot, and the set pieces, hurt it because they focused too much on it. Where this, you know, those things, the technical aspects, don't warrant the making of the movie. And that's all they could really highlight in this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The other one scene I really loved, you mentioned, was the bathroom scene where she's playing fetch with the dog. When she throws the ball out into the hallway, and she goes, "Where's your ball?" Like that. Okay, that scene. Her acting in that scene did feel like very nice. She sounded like she was playing with the dog.
Yep.
You know, there's something fucked up, and it's like, where did the ball go? You know, like
Yeah,
you have that moment, and then it just rolls back. You just, it's beautiful setup, beautiful setup. I love that, and that this movie should have had more of that than I think just the random ghouls wandering the halls and, you know, dragging themselves across the floor. You know, like, it didn't have a haunting aspect. It just had, surprise, we're here once in a while, and that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I had trouble seeing where that was supposed to be coming from, and like, I didn't, maybe I need to watch it again. This might be one of those things where
Oh, no,
I
don't
watch it
think so.
again, and before we do our next podcast, I just say a little revision on, but I mean, it might not be. I just have hope. I'm like, I can't think of a lot positive to say.
No, I mean,
Feels so
neither
bad.
can I. Crimson Peaks was torture for me. Like,
Yeah, I
This-
felt so bad watching that.
this is a movie I would be very happy if it never saw the light of day again. And I'm sure
Yeah.
this, you know, like, I don't know. Oh, man.
I think what I kind of took away from this movie was like, this movie felt to me like the original Ocean's 11, where it's like,
You mentioned that a lot. I still haven't
Yeah.
seen it.
where it's like the movie's not that great, but it's like I would love to see like a remake in like 20 years that's like just handled better
Mm-hmm.
and rewritten to be a little bit less on the nose. They talk a little bit less about what they're feeling and thinking and stuff, and then also a little bit more stylized in that way you said. Like, lead us somewhere with everything that's happening. Like,
Yeah.
I
Don't
want more of the
focus so
stuff
much
like
on the
dog
elevator
thing.
that's doing nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I get that you're trying to set this up as it's going to be important later, but you already ruined it when you said, never go in the basement. I forbid
Yeah.
you that whatever you do, never go in there. So then it doesn't even matter at that point,
Yeah.
you know? I also wanted to mention that this movie feels like this was a remake, a weird, spooky Guillermo del Toro version of Rebecca. Have you seen that movie or read that book?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Mind if I break it down for you?
Yeah, go for it.
Rebecca was a story about a woman who marries, you know, a widowed guy. He's like some bon vivant dude. He has a mansion or whatever.
Yeah.
Everything seems great. She moves into the mansion, but the head, like, help, what do you call the head lady? The head lady, whatever.
The head maid.
So, yeah, something like that. The head maid, basically just absolutely hates her. She, the new wife is basically living under the shadow of Rebecca, his previous wife who's dead, who was like the all everything girl, the perfect girl
Yeah.
who just died, right? And so the foreboding comes from, you know, like this was kind of like why we had to read it, I think, for Miss Casey's class. It's the flip on the whole, you know, the guy is the bad guy. There's that overarching male figure who's kind of like against you. This was a woman, right? Daunting another woman.
Yeah.
And this was also the head lady daunting her too. And so there's a lot of interesting setup like that, right? The same thing is happening in Crimson Peak, where the sister is, you know, the villain, you know. And they try to get that across. It's very on the nose, poisoning her, like, but it's just done so shoddily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Definitely
places.
seems like something very similar to
The story,
yeah.
Rebecca. Yeah, because
I mean, I especially remember that scene on the stairs at the very beginning when she's like kind of she's being very mean to our protagonist.
yeah, for what appears to be no reason. Same
Yeah.
thing kind of happens with Rebecca, and then like
That seems to be just even aside from this movie alone, that seems to be a common thing in like movies about Victorian era Europe. It seems like there's a lot of like, oh, you're not part of our part of our clan, so we look down upon you type thing.
Mm-hmm. Like the high society, highfalutin thing.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of that, especially around that time. I wonder how true to life that type of writing slash behavior is.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure there's definitely a lot of it. But yeah. So I see where a lot of the inspiration is coming from in this movie. Or at least I see, what I think is inspiration. I could just be horribly misled. But just... And I'm not comparing it to the other movies either,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that this movie as a whole was just such a piece of garbage. I don't know.
It definitely didn't connect with me. I don't know what they were going for, but it seems, in my personal view, like they did not quite get it.
Was there anything else that you didn't like or like about it? Anything else you want to touch on before?
Literally the only things I wrote down were the couple like shot choice moments that I said, so I'm not really... I feel bad. This is, like I've told you before, I hate talking shit about movies, but I just did not enjoy this one.
Oh.
I think it was just made for a different audience.
I don't even know. I don't think that audience exists, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I definitely wonder.
One other thing. The fight scene at the end, I just remembered, was so bad. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was rough, and I don't... He doesn't typically have a lot of, violence in his movies. There's... Violence will, accent people's behaviors, like the general kind of guy in Pan's Labyrinth, or, in Hellboy, it's all, gun-based violence with, he's shooting against computer-generated things. I don't know what the heck happened.
I honestly think that was, added last second. I think that might have been a reshoot, because it doesn't feel like it belongs.
Yeah.
And I think maybe they wanted to justify the length and pace of this movie. How long is this movie?
Just about 2 hours, I think.
I think it's over, isn't it?
I'm looking it up right now.
It's 2 hours exactly, yeah.
Yeah, 1 hour, 59 minutes.
So, in this 2 hour movie, I think 5 things happen. So I think they wanted to justify the length and pacing of this movie with a big climactic finish that just, it just feels like the perfect little cherry on top of a pile of bad choices.
Sure, yeah. It's kind of like one last kind of rough part to get through.
Yeah, because I said, we better save this. And then they just do something that just fits the theme of it as just being we probably should reshoot this whole movie kind of moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
One of the things, just to kind of add fuel to our fire, before we started this, I looked up some of the reviews and also read the Wikipedia page. And it seems like a lot of reviews seem to admit that it's pretty campy.
Campy?
I mean, sillily bad.
No.
That's what campy means to me. So a lot of reviews say that, and then they go on to praise the movie, which I think is very interesting.
It's not like The Room level or Tim and Eric level of camp.
No, but it's I think, given my definition of campy, I would say that's what didn't work for me in this movie, is the level of campiness. It was on the line between taking itself seriously and being a little bit more off-kilter, and I think it teetered...
Like The Infiltrator?
Yeah, it took itself a little bit too seriously. I think it could have been a little bit more off-kilter.
My definition of the camp, in so far as it goes with this movie, is that it was going for the Hitchcock aesthetic.
Sure.
Or of a 50s or 40s era movie, but...
Yeah.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that warrants it being so bad it's good, because it was just bad on bad.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely. I don't know what happened.
The world may never know. Did it make money?
Yeah, made 75 million worldwide, 77 million worldwide.
Poor bastards.
Actually, let me see what its budget was, though.
Budget was $55 million.
That's pretty rough. It only made about a little bit less than 20 million. So, I mean, when you take into account marketing costs, it probably didn't make that much. That's rough. But also, I don't remember seeing a lot of ads for it. I just remember seeing stuff about it on the internet.
Well, yeah, because you know what? who the hell did you market that to? What do you put in your commercial? Like, what audience is that for? Is that for kids who want jump scares?
I saw really talking about it were people who, like, really love Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, that's it. I know that too, or I remember that too. Tom Hiddleston's in a Guillermo del Toro movie. But
yeah, exactly.
In terms of where it was going with the audience specifically, there was nothing.
Yeah.
But you see that a lot with, like, a lot of these Disney live-action reshoots. Like Snow White and the Huntsman. Who the fuck is that marketed to? It's just, it's so-and-so. It's Thor in the movie. That's not Thor.
I think those things are marketed to, like, an international action audience. Because, like, if you look at Snow White and the Huntsman... What's up?
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Wow.
If you look at it, it's basically, like, there's a couple moments of really brilliant spectacle, and then other than that, the movie just hinges on its, like, international star power. Like, Charlize Theron probably helped it to sell overseas, and then people like Kristen Stewart and Big Hemsworth helped it to sell domestically, and then it's all about, well, we use the budget money we get from our financiers for having these big stars, and we put a couple moments of really great spectacle in the middle and the end.
Can we agree that was a bad movie?
I wouldn't agree that it was a bad movie. I would agree that it was wrong in a lot of ways.
Snow White and the Huntsman?
Yeah, like there was a lot of parts that I really loved, like the fight scene at the end with Charlize, with all the, like, ice stuff. I mean, I know the graphics weren't, like, the greatest, but I thought it was inventive at the very least. I also liked the scene where they were burning that village. I thought that was really great. Really well done stuff. Yeah, but I mean, like, it's obviously not made for me because I don't necessarily go see a movie just for the actors. Or,
right.
You know,
and
I just saw it because I was taking a chance on it and I expected it to be bad, and it wasn't horrible, I thought, but it definitely wasn't for me.
I guess my point in bringing that up is that was a movie sold on its stars.
Yeah.
This was too, and that should have actually been a red flag, because those movies are, I'd say, 80% shittier most of the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's one of the things, is that, like, you can sell a mediocre script by attaching the right people to it.
Yep. No, absolutely.
That's one of the great injustices of the modern international financing system.
Oh, yeah.
And look at speaking of which, not to get into gender identity politics, but, like, look at the backlash that Zhang Yimou, like, one of the greatest directors of all time, is facing in America only in America.
No, it'll be fine,
for casting Matt Damon.
No.
And it's like, he's not casting him as a Chinese person, and the movie stars mostly Chinese people. He just needed that one star to get his movie marketed in China the way he wants to get it marketed.
No, I think you're jumping the gun, because this is a classic case of any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
People are now talking about this, shitty, big, dumb action movie that came from China, because there's a lot of controversy about it now. Now everyone knows about this movie. People might not even know the name, but they are aware it exists.
Yeah.
And come this Christmas or whenever the hell it releases, I guarantee you more people will choose to see that movie because they've just heard about it and are curious than I guarantee otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's a stroke of genius, in my opinion. And I might go so far as to compare it to the Trump campaign, where, everyone was talking about how racist he was, but that got a lot of people talking about him, and a lot of people knew what the fuck he was talking about, or what he supposedly talked about. It was all in the air, right?
No, very good point. And I hate to say this, but I'm just so upset that people are upset about this.
Dude,
because I'm not upset, and I know why I'm not upset, and I'm gonna go see the movie as a result. Because I want to say fuck you to the people who are offended by it. It's like, he's not playing a Chinese person. He's playing a white guy. Fuck off.
You're falling for the classic Sony trap. Hashtag Ghostbusters 2.
Lol.
Or whatever the new Ghostbusters was called. Where they want there to be negativity surrounding it. So there's also that backlash. Well, I will see it in spite of you.
Yeah, well,
reaction.
I mean, I would see it anyways because Zhang Yimou is one of my favorite directors. But
Yeah.
I totally understand what you
When
mean.
I saw the previews the first time, I laughed my ass off. Like I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, this
it's
looks
gonna
so
be
big and dumb. I'm
ridiculous.
gonna love this." I just
Yeah,
want to
exactly.
see.
It's like
I thought
this
it was
movie
American
is
too at
made
first.
just for me.
Yeah, and I was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe they're trying to market to China so hard. And then I saw a Chinese everybody, and all the actors and the director.
Yep.
I was like, oh hell no! I was like, this is a Chinese movie. And so I was
Yep.
like, oh, I did this. Rub my hands together. I was like, ooh, this will be fun. I got to see what they're trying to pull here.
Yeah.
And so I was
right.
mad excited for it. But that's just me. Anyway, that's definitely a movie we should talk about in the future.
Yeah, I think we should almost try and see that the weekend it comes out. It comes out February 17th, so
I'd love to. That'd be great.
Yeah, let's try and do that the week it comes out, and then maybe we can take some notes and then talk about it a little bit.
That sounds
Cool.
good.
So we feel we exhausted Crimson Peak so much that we had to talk about other movies because we didn't want to talk about it anymore.
I mean, to go back to it one last time, Paul, would you, under any circumstance, recommend Crimson Peaks?
Unfortunately, I would not.
I am the same.
Yeah, it's not for me.
It's not
I
even
don't
worth
know.
it for any of the actors. It's not worth it for anything.
Yeah, it's like the thing is that like if it was really bad, I would say, hey, go see it, laugh your ass off.
But it's not even that bad. It's just
It's not
boring.
even, yeah,
bad.
it's like just the middle. It's that weird gray middle area.
Yeah, because
So-
that kind of bad involves some level of cringe.
Yeah.
A visceral reaction. This is just
But
this
this
puts
was
you to
just kind of
sleep.
like right in
Yeah.
the middle. Yeah, I couldn't really.
You can't even have this on to sleep to because there's
Yeah.
like spooky stuff going on. But like,
I couldn't, and to be honest, this is something I'm a little bit ashamed to admit. For all my purported loving of movies and stuff, I had trouble paying attention to this movie.
like,
I lost interest almost every scene.
mm-hmm.
I
feel
know,
the
I
same.
know that's so inappropriate as a moviegoer, but it just couldn't hold
I
my
don't
interest.
think so. I don't think so
So-
at all.
All
It's
right,
like-
well, let's talk. What's up?
It's like listening to a second grader reading like one of the Bible verses for church, and they just don't know what they're reading, and they're just saying
Yeah, they have no
words.
clue what's actually supposed to be saying.
And so
in
like you just know you have to sit there for like the 10-minute sermon part that they're doing and just kind of like doze off. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's how I would equate that to.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to one of my favorite movies of all time, The Master. Do you want to give us the synopsis of The Master?
I would love to. The Master is a movie directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, a 2012 film that was highly acclaimed for the roles. The roles played by Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, and Joaquin Phoenix is very good in this movie. He plays a very troubled man.
Oh, Joaquin. I said Joaquin.
Oh, that's okay.
Well, that's me reading IMDb. But yeah, he was fantastic. The movie's about a man coming back from just having won the war in the Pacific, World War II. A Navy man. He's pretty broken psychologically. He may or may not have had mental illness before, but we don't really know. He struggles with day-to-day life, just being back in regular society. He loses his job and has hard times with relationships right after the war, until he stumbles upon a party boat where Philip Seymour Hoffman is hosting a large wedding, or a large gathering for his daughter's wedding. They strike up a friendship. Joaquin Phoenix agrees to work for Philip Seymour Hoffman after he kind of does like this weird psychological test on him, and it's bizarre for both of them, I think. More so for Philip Seymour Hoffman, but, this kind of starts a friendship. The story progresses quickly where you realize that he's kind of a cult leader of this thing called The Way, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's either The Way or The Cause.
The Cause.
That's what it is, The Cause.
And supposedly this is loosely based off of Scientology, or the story of Scientology, but Joaquin Phoenix's character, he has this kind of like weird, I want to believe this, but I can't believe this relationship to being in the cult, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, Joaquin Phoenix leaves the cult and kind of leaves everyone there to high and dry as a result. When he can no longer take it, he tries to go back to his old life before the war, even. But things have changed so much. You know, there's no life to return to, unfortunately. Yeah. I think they reveal 7 years, correct? 7 years since after the war.
I think so.
In this time, however, he has been able to become a regular person again. I think, you know, maybe by being in such close contact with regular people being crazy, that he being crazy makes him regular, you know? And so he's able to reacclimate himself, I think, into just normal life. He goes to Britain, where the cause has opened up its new chapter to see Philip Seymour Hoffman, but he can't bring himself to rejoin the cause because he just doesn't believe it. And it ends with him seeming like almost a regular guy, but with a lot of quirks, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we should also point out that throughout the movie, one of the defining characteristics of Joaquin Phoenix's character, Freddie Quell, is that he concocts these insanely strong, probably pretty poisonous drinks out of things like gasoline, turpentine, like rubbing alcohol. Like, he really just makes strong, disgusting drinks that he kind of pawns off on his various acquaintances throughout the movie. And this is actually what endears Philip Seymour Hoffman to him initially.
Yes, that's true. But also, he's like raging alcoholic too.
Yes.
So it's not like he's doing this as a scam. He drinks this stuff too because he needs it.
Exactly. He does it for himself just as much as he does it for other people.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting that they have a very strong emphasis that Freddie Quell is a sex addict, or some weird sex addict.
Some sort of like sexual deviancy, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So what worked and didn't work for you in this movie?
Okay. What worked for me was that the constant tone, or the constant feeling you have watching this of just being very unsettled, was amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Because
I agree.
You feel like with Joaquin Phoenix's character on the screen, at any moment it could explode, right? That something can go horribly wrong. Oftentimes it doesn't, you know, or I think maybe like, you know, 1 or 2 times something does happen, but he's just so unpredictable, and the setting itself is just so off. That feeling, like I said again, that unsettling feeling you have is just very strong, and it's poignant, and it's very well done. I liked Joaquin Phoenix's character. I think he played the part very well. I do want to caveat this because it's real. I feel like it's so easy given this golden goose of a role, because they have him talking to a fucking shrink, or lack of a better word, a psychiatrist. Like, not really, you know, a pseudo-psychologist. And so for him to like have those emotional breakdowns or moments of memory or recollection is so much easier to get across when someone's directly asking you that is kind of unfair. But to be fair, it was beautifully done, right?
Yeah, especially because I feel like, not to interrupt you, but I feel like when they were doing those kind of like readings, I forgot what those are called in actual Scientology, but like when they're doing those readings, like you almost feel like you're like, fuck, I would have never guessed that like this was happening or whatever, you know, like I just thought he was like a really fucked up guy or something, you know. You don't like any of the things he said, like they may have explained why he's weird or why he's the way he is, but they were never like expected. Like the thing he says about his aunt and the thing about like,
can we go into spoilers? Do we want to say for the audience?
Yeah, but maybe we don't need to say, because I really want to encourage people to see this.
Sure.
Spoiler for the podcast, I'm going to recommend this fucking movie. But yeah, I thought that was really fucking well done too. So what else worked for you?
I really liked Philip Seymour Hoffman in this a lot. Their friendship, their relationship with one another was so intriguing to watch because Joaquin Phoenix's character was just like the truest person he would ever meet, you know? And
yeah, he hides nothing.
yeah, and he loves that. And at the same time, Philip Seymour Hoffman's the only one that cares about him, right?
Yes.
Like, it was such an interesting dichotomy. But, obviously, Philip Seymour Hoffman is taking advantage of everybody, including him. But at the same time, he deeply, deeply cares for Joaquin Phoenix. It's just, it's such an interesting dichotomy.
Like you just said, he cares for him, not about him.
Care to elaborate on that? I'm a bit confused about what you mean.
Like, he cares to get to know this guy, and he's, like, made very curious by him, but he also wants him to buy into this thing.
Yeah,
so in that sense, he doesn't fully care about him, but he has a care for this kind of guy, I guess.
Yeah. I
and have you, by the way, speaking of which, before you move on, have you ever watched videos of L. Ron Hubbard speaking?
Nope.
So, Philip Seymour Hoffman, like you mentioned, he doesn't do an impression of L. Ron Hubbard because this character is not L. Ron Hubbard, but he talks very similarly to the way that L. Ron Hubbard does, in the sense that, like, if you ever watch L. Ron Hubbard talking, he kind of dances around everything he says. He never gives interviewers a straight answer, and when he does, it's so wrong and he's so committed to it that the interviewers oftentimes will just accept what he says because of his commitment to it. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, I think, really captured that part of L. Ron Hubbard's personality. This, like, weird certainty about himself that is hard to kind of get along with, in a sense. Like, when he's in that place, I think in England, or it might not have been in England, but when he's in that place and he has that lady laid down and she's like, she wakes up and she feels better, and then that kind of dissenter guy talks.
That was in New York.
Oh, that was in New York. So when that happens, the way he talks condescendingly to that guy is like so very like the way L. Ron Hubbard talks to interviewers in what few interviews I've seen of him. And it's very, very fascinating.
Interesting. Okay, because I was going to say, I don't feel like he was very smooth with it, because he just, he blew up at people.
No, exactly. He wasn't smooth, but he was so convinced, and he just kept plowing forward with whatever sentence he was saying, regardless of how wrong everyone in the room can see it clearly is.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of characteristic I thought was just really great. No worries. So we talked a little bit about what worked for you. Was there anything that didn't work for you in this movie?
Oh, well, before we move on to what didn't work.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, actually, that does lead me in pretty nicely. I was confused a lot of times during this movie who the main character was. Was it...
Oh, interesting.
Was it Joaquin, or was it Philip Seymour Hoffman? Right.
Interesting.
Because I kind of wanted to know more about what Philip Seymour Hoffman's character was going to do next, rather than Freddy. Freddy was a crazy ball of rubber bands ready to explode at any minute, right? That's a really bad analogy, but roll with it. But it was Philip Seymour Hoffman's character I cared more about as the movie went through, right? But it doesn't focus enough on him, nor did it focus a lot on Freddy. And so after the movie, I was just really confused as to what the point of the movie was. Like, I understood that we're seeing Joaquin get better by the end, but it didn't feel like a story that necessarily needed to be told. I saw it twice, and both times I was just kind of like, I'm really, really trying to read into this to get something out of it, because it doesn't come through naturally. But with time, the longer I sat with it just to think about it, because I knew I had a podcast to do, I gave it way more thought, and the more I really appreciated it after the fact. But during the first and second watches, I was just kind of like, why does its story justify the making of the movie? You know, is
Yeah.
this a tale that needs to be told?
No, that's a good question, and I think that you're not going to find a clear yes or no answer from anyone you ask.
Yeah, and you can say that with a
Because
lot of
I
movies
think,
too. But it's
yeah,
not.
definitely.
This doesn't leave you. This has no impact. You know, I think for the performances, like I said, between Joaquin and Philip Seymour Hoffman, was fantastic.
Yeah.
The plot didn't really catch me though. You know,
Sure.
but you know, maybe I'm just a basic moviegoer.
No, I think that's perfectly reasonable. I mean, for me, I would say that one of the reasons I love this movie is that there's no clear point to it, and it doesn't give you any answers. There's no like the beginning is not really a beginning, the end is not really an end.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I like about it, is the fact that, like, if you ask anyone what the point of the movie is, I think you'll probably get 100 different answers out of 100 different people. And that's why this movie is so fascinating to me.
The way it was shot, I loved.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
The way how you kind of feel going in and out of Joaquin Phoenix's memories and experiences, not just in like his like sit down, I'm gonna do my psychological test to you kind of moment, but
Yeah.
because there are other moments peppered throughout where he's remembering things, or like that felt so good.
Yeah.
When you just see they cut to his face, but they cut to the memory with no sound and the lighting, everything. You get that warmth just by watching the way it was cut, of him like recalling a good time. You know, that was well fucking done.
Definitely.
The characterization, or like the characters are big, at least.
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin. But what else didn't work for me? I don't think I like the acting of the supporting characters too much. I mean, obviously it's kind of hard. Like, okay, let's put it this way. Have you seen The Grand Budapest Hotel?
Yeah.
Yeah, by, what's his name? Wes Anderson?
Yeah.
They say, who is the main, concierge guy? What's his name?
Rafe Fiennes.
Yeah. They said Ray Fiennes, like, kind of broke that movie because of how good he was, right? Where everyone else acting beside him looked like children.
Sure,
you know?
Yeah.
To be fair, there was a kid in it and that was his, like, buddy, but just everywhere. He did such a good job. It made everything
he was so
look worse by
incredible
comparison.
that it almost overshadowed everyone else.
Yeah, even though they were going for
good.
that campy feel,
yeah,
he was just too good of an actor. You know what I mean? Anyway, I feel the same about this, where you have two excellent performers who you just think they are that character. The supporting characters just don't really have that same impact. They don't deliver their lines. Like, you notice, right, that they are actors in a movie when compared to those two who actually feel like they are in this movie or in this story. They are these people.
Yeah, they feel like human beings, whereas everyone else kind of feels like a character.
Someone playing somebody. Yeah, absolutely. So that, the main one being the husband of the master's wife. Because they give him a lot of emphasis, because they're talking to him. He's part of the psychological test. He's going around. You know, he has more speaking roles, but it's noticeable.
Yeah.
His publisher, they give him a couple lines. It's noticeable. The dissenter, the guy who's questioning him in the New York seance thing, whatever the hell they're doing, noticeable, right?
Yep.
Every time it's not those two, it breaks a little bit. The immersion is broken. You see?
Yeah.
But as soon as it's just those two again, it's amazing. You just want more of that. But you have to step back out to let the story progress outside of those two, you know?
Yeah.
And that hurt the movie for me.
Okay. Definitely.
Paul,
that makes total sense.
What did you like about this movie?
Well, as we mentioned, I'll kind of gloss over the things that you already talked about because I think they're probably similar to mine. I love the acting. Joaquin Phoenix is one of my favorite actors, and he's one of the most consistently brilliant actors I think I've ever seen. Same with Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, R.I.P. the guy's dead, but I mean, he is never. I've never seen him in a role where I wasn't like, this is an interesting character that is completely different from all his other characters.
That's what people say, but I've never seen. The only other movie I can think of that I've seen him in was Big Lebowski.
Oh shit! Well, you should check. Yeah, you should check out some of his hits. I mean, let me just pull up a couple movies that you might want to check out from this guy, because he's a brilliant actor. Capote, he plays Truman Capote, the famous author. He's brilliant in.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. He
was in. Let's just see what else. He's been in a couple of the Mission Impossibles, which have been fun. He was He was in Punch Drunk Love, Patch Adams, Boogie Nights. He's amazing in Boogie Nights.
He was in Punch Drunk Love. I remember that.
He was also in what's that other Paul Thomas Anderson one? I forgot what it was, but Magnolia, amazing in that. Talented Mr. Ripley, also amazing. He was in he was in Red Dragon, where he gets he's the guy who gets put in the wheelchair and thrown down the hill while he's on fire.
Spoilers.
And he was in the Hunger Games, a couple of them. Yeah, so he's just a brilliant actor, and I love seeing him. As we already mentioned, I love the cinematography. One of my favorite scenes is there's this scene where he's talking to the military psychologist, and he like shows him the Rorschach tests and all that stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the military psychologist is just holding the cigarette between his middle finger and his thumb, and he's just slowly rolling it over the ashtray. And there's something about that shot and that characterization of the military psychologist that I just love to death. And I believe most of that scene is an unbroken shot. And it is just so fucking fantastic. I love the
That's so interesting
score.
You picked up on that. Like,
yeah, that is one of my favorite things
that.
of all time. I love the score. Johnny Greenwood also scored There Will Be Blood and Inherent Vice, I believe.
I agree.
He's just a brilliant.
Was good.
Yeah. He's a brilliant musician. He deserves every bit of accolade he gets for being a brilliant musician. Radiohead is obviously one of the seminal pop bands of the 90s and 2000s, and he has transferred his fame from that into something truly wonderful. I just love how when I watch like the Scientology documentaries and stuff, then they show clips of L. Ron Hubbard, I'm like, not only is this guy full of shit, but I hate his stupid face. I hate the way he talks down to people. I hate his little lisp that he has. I hate the way his mouth curls at the side. He just looks like a shithead. In this movie, I know intrinsically that most of what Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is saying is bullshit. But for some reason, like you mentioned, I still kind of root for him. I still kind of like something about him. And I think that's because they took away a lot of the bad characteristics.
That's only showing it from Freddy's side. What is nice for Freddy, not what is the entirety of his cultic personality.
Exactly. And so I think I think the way they accomplished that was a combination of Philip Seymour Hoffman's acting, the tone of the movie as a whole, and then just the way Philip Seymour Hoffman is shot. He's shot very regally and very majestically, which is how I think L. Ron Hubbard imagined himself.
Yeah, there are a lot of shots of him like on the throne and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think that his character necessarily always put forth that kind of like, I'm regal, and even if I'm wrong, I'm right type attitude. He felt a little bit more grounded than the real L. Ron feels. And for that, I'll always love this movie. Things that didn't quite work for me, there's only one thing that I really want to mention, and that's that I thought the scene where Philip Seymour Hoffman is singing to that
Ah,
huge congregation of people, I thought that was wonderful, but I thought that they really kind of tried to hammer home the Joaquin Phoenix is a pervert part during that scene. And I thought, they did that well enough in the first scene of the movie where he's making that woman out of sand, and then he's like seeing like, oh, is this sand sculpture like sturdy enough for me to fake sex with it? And like, oh, I gotta go masturbate while other people are watching. Like, we know he has a sexual deviancy of some sort.
mm-hmm.
But I didn't need to see all those naked people in order to hammer that point home. That's the only issue I had with this movie. But I'm sure that there are other reasons why that scene was in there that I maybe haven't picked up on yet.
I also felt that was kind of a strange addition too.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was wrong or off. There was something that didn't feel quite like it needed to be there, I guess.
Yeah, and then the next scene of like, what's her name, the wife of Philip Seymour Hoffman
Amy
jacking
Adams.
him off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy Adams jacking him off in the sink. Like,
Yeah.
that will, it brings home the point that, like, he is not his own master, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the scene itself, yeah, exactly. It was just, that didn't really set up that scene very well. And it didn't really have a lot to do with Joaquin Phoenix's, like, persona, like, development afterwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just kind of there, and you say, huh? And it was over.
Yeah, it kind of contributed to the wondering as to whether this was Freddie Quell's story or Lancaster Dodd's story. So that's the only thing that I really could pick up on that didn't quite work for me. I love this movie so much because this to me is one of the best modern examples of don't tell the audience much.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of let them live in this fucked up world of these people,
Oh, yeah. They do that beautifully.
Yeah, I thought that was just really fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, what would you say your overall impression is if you had to kind of sum it up?
It's a movie I think of very fondly in terms of it has given me a lot to think about in trying to just, like, figure out the purpose of the movie, or, like, really Freddy's whole arc, I guess.
Yeah.
I was recalling the time when he's like in that test with the daughter's wife or daughter's husband of like, how many people did you kill in the Pacific, dummy?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Rami Malek. That was an intense.
And they're
scene.
like, he says some other stuff too, but that was very interesting in a way. It was literal because it's happening in that test, but B,
yeah.
It's symbolically showing how he's facing his fears and overcoming those voices in his head that, like, in the beginning they show him, like, I don't know, I don't think I killed anybody. No, I definitely killed people. I killed Japs in war. Like, he has to now confront it with someone telling him that. He's kind of coming to peace with his, like, I was in the boat that won the war. What have you done, dummy? Like, where he's now given some sort of worth. I thought that was well done because then it transitions to the next scene of him kind of like, he's now mentally liberated. Through this fucked up cult thing, he's been able to free himself of all of his actual problems.
Yeah,
right?
And it's funny you mention that because in watching the HBO Scientology documentary from a couple years ago, entitled Going Clear, Scientology in the Prison of Belief, a lot of people will say, like, when I went in for the analysis or the test or whatever it was, I would feel like there was this huge weight on my shoulders, and when I would come out, I would feel amazing.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, like, when you go in, they're writing down everything you say. So you might be getting all this stuff off your chest, but now this cult's kind of organization has a record of everything you said to them. It's like,
oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's very fascinating that they kept that aspect of Scientology in this kind of the cause cult, because people in real Scientology do report, like, when I was going in for, analysis or whatever it's called, I felt amazing afterwards. It felt like all my problems were just gone.
Wait, are you saying you did? Or are you saying hypothetically or as a character?
No, that's what people say
who
are in Scientology. They say that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
For a second, I thought you went to go try it out. I was like, Paul.
Oh no, I would never. I would never do that. Yeah. So, what are your final thoughts on this flick?
Well, like I said, going back to that part makes me understand and appreciate the movie a lot more because it's
Yeah.
about how he's able to, through the weirdness, be able to become like a normal, like a functional person that's overcome a lot of their mental demons.
Yeah.
Now, it makes me remember and think of the movie a lot more fondly than when I was actually watching, and just at the ending, just kind of like, what the hell?
Sure.
Take you on a slow boat to China, as Philip Seymour Hoffman would say. I don't know. I wouldn't recommend this movie for most people. This is a super duper art house movie, and it actually lost money. I was looking at the numbers.
Yep. I think most Paul Thomas Anderson movies have lost money.
That's too bad. But
it is too bad because I love them so much.
This movie is a cut above, I'd say, a large majority of movies.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like you need to have seen it. I still believe that.
Okay.
But there are still a lot of parts that I love it for. So for like I said, I probably wouldn't recommend this movie, but I would if I think they might get something spiritual out of this, or can just appreciate its technicalities.
Yeah, the technical prowess in this movie is second to none. It is very well shot, well edited, well acted, well composed. Yeah, just great stuff.
Paul, did we talk about, was there anything else that you wanted to touch on, or?
No, I guess I'm pretty similar to you, where it's like, unless I really, really intimately knew someone's movie taste, I probably wouldn't recommend this. Mm-hmm. But having said that, it is one of my favorite movies.
I can see why. I can totally
It's not one of those movies like There Will Be Blood where I can point to why very specifically.
Yeah. It's definitely a movie that I think you have to think about and give it a lot of time.
Yeah, I think you maybe a couple viewings, maybe a lot of thinking time, and then, for most people I've seen it with, it grows on them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there you go.
All right. Well, what's that?
I was going to say, so I guess this is the end of our big movie podcast.
Yeah, this is the end of episode 4. We'll be back again next time with another 2 movies, and until then, we'll see you.
See you guys later. I'm Anson Chan.
I'm Paul Morgan. Thanks for listening,
guys. Yep. Bye.
Bye.